What are the Vinyl Verdict? I'm Jacob.
I'm Michael.
And today we're reviewing Junior's Farm with the B-side Sally G by Paul McCartney and Wings. And it was released in October of 1974 as the follow-up to Band on the Run. Both songs were recorded earlier in July of '74, earlier that year as part of the Nashville sessions. What's interesting is that this is really the next time you heard them after Band on the Run, and so it's a much more polished version of Wings. It was also pretty successful. It hit number 3 in the US and number 16 in the UK. So, definitely a major hit for Wings. So the formation was changing after Band on the Run. They came back, and now you have Jimmy McCullough as the guitarist filling in for the band, and Jeff Britton on drums. So this is the next iteration, and you're hearing them for the first time on this 45.
Junior's Farm to me was an unbelievable record that absolutely was a different era for Wings. When I first heard it, I actually have to admit made a mistake and thought it was a new Badfinger record. It had such an edge to it, which I know now was Jimmy McCullough playing lead. But the song was hard rocking with a powerful bass line, heavier sound, and a more rocky sound than anything that I had heard that I associated with Wings. And I was also struck by the ending of the song, going to a completely different minor and descent, and McCartney's vocalization over that was just superb, take me back, and it was just had nothing to do with the rest of the song, and I always thought it was a magnificent ending also. And the record hit us really hard. I mean, it was not at first available. I recall going to a jukebox to hear it with Sally G on the other side. Junior's Farm was unlike any Wings record sound that we had heard. And in hindsight, was the beginning of a new era, and probably the most commercially successful era with the touring that was ahead for Wings. It was a great record.
Yeah, it's really strange after Band on the Run to hear them so produced. Like, it sounds like this is, I love it, but it's much more like a glam rock, proto-glam rock kind of feel to a song, versus Band on the Run almost still having that like home studio quality. And I was shocked that it hit number 3 in the US when I looked it up, because I don't feel like this is a major Wings song that's on the radio today. It feels like a little more of an underground.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. The rock edge is definitely Paul going for, trying to be a little bit heavier, I think, and compete with some of the more topical bands. But at the same time, it also seems less serious because it has the nonsense lyrics, which are already kind of harkening back to the Beatles days and psychedelia a little bit. Some of which were edited down, obviously, in the DJ version, but the single we have is the full 4.5 minute version. I think it's really interesting also that, like, the context of when this was recorded, he's in Nashville, he's covering his father's songs, who are, he's going to pass soon and everything like this.
Walking in the park with Eloise.
Same session and doing a lot of jazz music, and he's doing Sally G, which is in the spirit of that. Yet he does this really, really heavy rock song in the middle of those sessions.
I guess he was staying on Junior Putnam's farm down in Nashville, and what that has to do with the song, I don't know, but it just may explain the title, which other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, overall, great playing throughout. And that ending climax, I think, is amazing, some of the stuff he's doing there, and vocally, that he still plays that live, and he still does the I wanna go back, which is like, I think a high C that he's just, or maybe D to C, that he's just like reeling off like it's nothing.
Yeah, that section seems crying it out. I'm not sure what that has to do with the rest of the song. I almost felt like it's just a different emotion.
It's just, he's in peak vocal form. I think 76 Paul is probably the peak, but it's kind of weird in the DJ edit, which is what I grew up with because it was on Wingspan and everything, that they edit out the repeat of the opening guitar riff, and then, he comes back and he has the ha ha ha, like kind of, the song feels a little bit empty without that. The intro, I guess, feels more forced if you're not getting a little more familiar with it.
Yeah, he actually kicks off the bass for a rock song, as always, melodic somehow. I don't know how, but it's melodic, and he does it always.
It's just interesting. Obviously, it's not really a sophomore slump. He's already had, 30 number 1 hits or something. But for Wings, Band on the Run was kind of a high watermark. And so this is him, deciding what he wants to do next and not really overthinking it. Just doing a fun song he probably wrote that month and going into the studio and, putting it to record.
But we now know also he had hired, later maybe would have a little, some problems with Jimmy McCullough, but he had brought in a real hot, good young player who was really extraordinary in his own right, and that was an attention grabber, that lead guitar also in the song, in the break and the fill.
B-side is Sally G. A B-side is a chance to experiment, and for a guy who's already experimented a lot, a country song is something totally new. So he's tackling that. Overall, it makes it one of the most unique singles, I think, of Wings to have such a heavy rock song with a country song on the B-side. So
Beautiful country overtones. I put rock in there too, maybe, even though it's not a hard rocking Junior's Farm, but it's not pure country. It's McCartney combining his melodicism with the chord changes. He was in Nashville and home of country.
the melody even of the Sally, the melody in the chorus is very, it's like a McCartney yodel. It's not really the way that a country song would go, but it's melodic enough. You can kind of see his signature on it. And I think it's a strong use of what people give McCartney flack for is his storytelling when it's a little bit ersatz or something. But here he's really doing, he's telling a story and it's funny, it's tongue in cheek. And the middle eight is what a middle eight's supposed to do, which is like the climax of that story, and it says move along, and he does, and he throws in the joke that, the G definitely, I don't know what it stood for, but it wasn't good.
Tremendous.
It's like jokes along the way and kind of making, almost satirizing the genre a little bit, but also showing respect for it and everything.
Somewhere to the south of New York City lies the friendly state of Tennessee is really an attention grabber lyrically.
After that middle eight, right? So he does the whole thing, the minor chord, he comes back to it, and it does the solo, and then he does the McCartney thing he always does live, where he hits the verse in one note instead of doing the melody. So he just does his like, now I'm on my own again, I wonder. But it's so low and country, you barely notice. But classic textbook McCartney technique of like grabbing your attention after a solo.
If you think of Country Dreamer earlier, which was a pretty countryish kind of song, and you think of Sally G, it's just mega produced compared to that. It's powerful.
Yeah, and it kind of continues a little bit what's going to become like the novelty of each Wings recording, where they recorded in Nigeria, and Paul I think is even like, okay, where else can I go to try to get some unique songwriting inspiration? So it's going to be Nashville, then he's going to go to New Orleans, then they're going to record an album on a boat at some point. So I think part of the success of Band on the Run maybe led him to try to chase down some unique recording options, and Nashville is kind of the second one of those. So anyway, yeah, great single. So that was Junior's Farm with Sally G. Thanks for watching.